Well, hello and good day to you all. My name is Dimitri Frederick, and you're watching Voices for the Voiceless, a Frederick Media production and a subsidiary of Frederick Capital. Today is December the 12th, 2011, and today's show is entitled Occupy America. And it is actually fitting to give it a name as such as Occupy Boston, Occupy Wall Street, because the last 3 months I've been watching on and off the ongoing issues of us wanted to picket, our cities and towns or our financial institutions because we're not happy with what's going on with Wall Street, or corporate America, or even what's going on overseas. And it's very interesting because as I was thinking about this show, was reflected on the days when I was in college, and actually I went to Western Massachusetts, some college out there. I'm not going to mention the name of the college. And that college was known for picketing and rioting all the time. Every time our students had a gripe, they were quick to actually want to riot, picket and whatnot. And so, as I used to recall watching, and I was just a very focused student in my college education, and so I basically was always passing by and watching the kind of audiences that was in the mix, and it was the students that educational wise, they wasn't as serious in the education, and so they did their own nonsense. And again, I'm not going to describe some kind of caliber of students there were, because there was all types of people. But I always said to myself that I will never, and this is years after college, of course. As I keep watching throughout the 4 years I was in college, and watching these ongoing issues of debates, this and that, and I always know that I have an intelligent mindset, and in my education was what's going to save me, and not necessarily the education, but having the common sense as well to have a business mindset, know what I'm doing with myself, and with my goal settings as well. And you see, in the audiences of people I used to always watch is the same group of people that goofed off, fooled around, never serious really about their education, and at the same time they wanted the school, the principals, the whoever's in charge, whether it's the financial aid department or what have you, to take them seriously. And I used to always ask myself, how would I take you seriously if you are not of a caliber of proficient in your education, serious about what you're trying to learn, what kind of commitment you are to the parents that actually is paying for you to go to college, spending that much money. And likewise, when I look at the Occupy Boston, Occupy Wall Streets, it's all great and dandy. And so here we are again. So you had gone to college, did the same things that you did, and some of that stems from back to the 70s and 60s of people wanted to riot, boycott this and that. But when are we going to take the initiative is really the topic of this show, of Occupy America or Occupy the World, because it's not really about occupying Wall Street or any of those things per se. It's really about occupying your financial situation so that globally, we become independent, whether it's a job or just be self-sufficient for ourselves. Because it's really sad when I look at the people there in the audiences, and not necessarily I went downtown, but more or less looking at the news, the things that they show me. I would guarantee a lot of those people are unemployed, are frustrated with the system because they're sitting in the butts and they cannot do anything but wait to get a job. But it kind of baffles me when I think back on the days when this country was being formulated, and it wasn't about a job. It was about being self-sufficient to take care of yourself, meaning that you had your own thing, your own business. You were able to provide for your own family. It's kind of shocking to see that a young generation, and some older people there too, so we have a mix of everybody who's gotten trapped into the mindset that I need a job. I need to seriously beg, corporate America to, it's just like having a child that's frustrated and want to complain and whine and basically to do, fancy fits or whatever you want to call it, and basically was hoping that they get the attention of their parent by doing these nonsense stuff. And so when we look at what, these Occupy Wall Streets, Occupy Bostons and things like that are going on, who's is it really hurting? Because they have the money to sit there and watch and laugh at you every single day. Because Look at what's happening right now. As I listen to the mayor of Boston, he talks about how, about $700,000, and depending on your state, it might even be more or less. $700,000 in expense for cleaning and having police presence there all the time, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. Guess what, guys and gals, I should say, who is going to pay for that at the end of the day? So you may not be, employed right now. You may be frustrated with the system, but at the end of the day, the system is the one that still wins, because that money is our tax dollars. So unfortunately, it's not your tax dollars because you're not working, or can't get a job. But last time I checked, God didn't give me only one talent to go work for the rest of my life for somebody else. God gave me a lot of potentials, a lot of God-given talents. And there's something I'm working on another project that talks about that. But it's amazing that you have given 100% of your rights, your empowerment to a system, to a job that says that, well, I cannot do anything else but collect a paycheck. Now, we're far from removed from the days of self-employment, of, cultivating the land that we were born from, that we grew up on to take care of ourselves, meaning farming, agricultural days, to where we become so civilized, so, corporate, that we have walked away from the idealism of being self-sufficient, meaning that, is it all that you can be? As they say in the army, is that all that you really can be in your life, but depending on a job? The last time I checked, you could still create your own business. You could still start your own thing, pursue your passion, pursue your dreams. Read some personal development books about becoming, wait a minute, I forgot. You don't have a business mindset first to understand these things, to start building something for yourself, creating this philosophy, because you've been conditioned in your job for so long that all you know is a job. Is that all that God put us in this earth for, to be just employees? When you look at what's happening to corporate America and shipping jobs overseas, that's why today you are in that situation out there and talking about occupying Boston, occupying Wall Street, because you haven't been paying attention, because you've been self-sufficient and content that someone's handing you a paycheck to survive. Last time I realized I was an adult, that I didn't want someone to keep handing me something to say, oh, Dimitri, you are good enough, and dictating my financial situation, dictating my future financial situation. If you are legacy driven, how many more years, how many more generations must you continue to go on, be dependent on someone to hand you a paycheck, when you really look at the outcome of the situations that's going on in America and also in the globe? All the issues going on in Europe about the euro and all these expenses. Well, guess what? It's here too. The occupied Bostons, the occupied Wall Streets, they're just a stepping stone away from the same situation, because if there's no jobs created, well, guess what? Doesn't that mean you cannot create your own job? The same thing can be said on the opposite side. While I watch this, picketing, this nonsense going on, people want, what did you really accomplish? You made a stand, you got heard, you started blogs, you started websites, but at the end of the day, what did you walk away from? That you achieved something? The person that won at the end of the day is the person who's been paying the bills and taking out money out of their pockets to cover the expenses, because you want to do something. That's why no one took you seriously, because at the end of the day, you still have the same power that I have, which is to start your own business, start creating something for yourself. Now, you may go back to your homes, you may go back to whatever situation you may be, whether if you do have a job, but guess what? What are you changing? What is changing after having done that? Nothing really, because at the end of the day, it still goes back to you. What is it that you're willing to create? And the reason it's hard for you to understand these philosophies about creating something for yourself is because you've never been taught that. So you have a generation before you that was all about working class, that never taught you about being self-sufficient, self-empowering to start your own business. So it amazes me that we get so stuck in the mindset over the years and been conditioned, conditioning the state of mind is one thing I call it in the project I'm working on, to make you understand the philosophies that self-employment was something that we all have the power and the right to create for ourselves. So don't spend too much time on focusing on what the system has done to you, but get frustrated enough, of course, to say, what do I need to do for myself? What is the God-given talents within me that gives me the empowerment to say no more? will I continue to allow myself to be enslaved to a job mentality that's not going to get me anywhere? A lot of young, students, young college people are in that crowd. you know. So look at your education. Is it really an education that you're getting that's going to fulfill you to accomplish the things you need? Because, a lot of us, just like myself, I'm educated too. So what does it mean in the end of that day that you're educated? Does it mean that you're good enough educated that you cannot work for yourself, or that you need someone to give you a paycheck at the end of the day? Or can you be creative enough to start something for yourself? That's what it comes down to at the end of the day. You could continue to allow the same things to continue to happen to you generation after generation, and watch its children struggle, believing in the hype that, yeah, I need a job, I need a degree, this and that. I'm not saying nothing against degrees, it's all great and dandy, but why are you right there in the situation? You need to do a self-evaluation. As it is December right now in 2011, I've been doing this show for 11 months now, and every single year since I was a kid, I recall, I do a self-evaluation check of myself at the end of the year. While most people are celebrating about Christmas and enjoying it, see, I'm looking at, where am I in my life right now? Where am I in the goals that God has put before me to accomplish, so that I could become a better man, a better leader for next year? See, most of us don't do those things to look at and find ourselves right at the dead end of life in our situation and keep looking back at the mirror, but we refuse to look at, you are the only one that could change your situation. You are the only one that could change your financial outcome, because no one else can do it. Not your family, not your job, but you. At the end of the day, there's more people that's dependent on you to change, make a decision for your life. As I say that, I just thought about something. Recently, someone actually, made a comment. As you know, in business, someone asked you, "Are you rich yet?" or this and that, or "I'll wait until you get started first before I come aboard and join." And I'm gonna have to say something hard, because this show is always gonna keep it real and be direct to you, because there's no time for games. There's no time for fooling around to trying to figure it out. If you're at some point in your life right now you haven't figured it out, then there's almost no hope for you, because that means that you haven't done the proper things in life to get you ready for the outcome what's to come in the next few years, because this is just the beginning of what's coming. And so that person, as they always want to wait for somebody else, I have to ask you this, especially if you're a parent right now, why do I have to always wait on me? Why can't you wait on yourself to start doing something first? People always have to wait for someone to lead them to follow. Why can't you become the own leader for yourself? So in that essence, I ask you the question, isn't your children tired of waiting on you to do something different to change your financial situation? What are you going to do now that the whole Occupy Boston, Occupy Wall Street is ending, or being forced to be pushed out of the way? What is it that you're going to do next year? Are you going to be back in the same situation? Or are you going to take the leadership and the charge for your family to say, I need to do something different? 100% totally different. Wealth is created from those who understand the philosophy that, watch what the 97% of the world is doing and do the total opposite. And that's what I've understood for years in being in business, that I'd rather do what the 3% are doing. Yeah, it is hard. Yeah, it's uncomfortable. Yeah, it takes vision also. You could watch the show that I did a show about that. It takes vision to understand the process in which you are following a different path that no one else is willing to do. And that's what it takes, leadership. There's too many followers, because while everybody was sitting there, occupying Boston in the freezing cold or wherever you may be, what was it different that you were doing to look and reflect on your life to say, what is next year going to be? What is next December going to be like for me? Whether or not you're working or have a job. And sometimes just having a job alone can mess you up, because you think you have it made. You think you're comfortable. And, we're about to be in a situation, a stage in our lives, in a time period right now, that a lot of us are going to be uncomfortable for a long time. And I'd rather be uncomfortable, be aware, and be watching, observing what's around me, than be lied to and believe that everything is going to be okay, because everything is not going to be okay. So for those of you who are occupying Boston, occupy yourself to be busy doing the opposite things to financially empower you to do something totally different that you've never done before, so that your family could have something different that they've never had before as well. So it comes out to personal development, self-empowerment, understanding that entrepreneurship is where it's at. It's the future of our generations. It's the future of our financial independence. So if you're not willing to depend on yourself to be self-sufficient, your job is not going to do it for you. If anything, your job is probably evaluating right now as a number how many people they have to lay you off. And you might just be one of those numbers in the count. Not a name, but a number in the count that might be laid off. So understand that self-empowerment, occupying the world through entrepreneurship is the way you want to go. Not necessarily occupying Boston, occupying Wall Street, because at the end of the day, Wall Street will still move on. Whether or not it's greed, whether or not it's the right movement of the stock market or not. And actually, I'm about to do another show right now as a bonus, talking about bopping the bonds. I forget the exact title of the name, but you can watch that right after soon, because understand that things will still move on. Things are still growing, but you might be the only thing in the world that's not moving. You're staying steadfast in your old ways, your old philosophies, and that might be just the thing that's preventing you from moving forward, from changing your financial situation. So I want to thank you for your time. That's the end of our show for today. And as always, I hope you have been empowered, enlightened, and definitely have been educated. Take care, and God bless.